Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 19th day, 319, like Aaron Rodgers would say, on the eve of the NCAA tournament. Going to talk about that. Actually got a little intro there I got off of CBS. We'll lead that in. I got the Mad New Yorker backstage here. I'm going to play a bite here, Carlos, who's backstage, from a few years ago with Bryant Gumbel, Clark Kellogg, and Charles Barkley. Very funny. Just remind me, Carlos, to play that. It's very funny there. We're going to talk about that, but also we're going to talk about this wild contract there with Ja'Marr Chase, who's the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, along with T. Higgins. 44% of the salary cap going to three players. They're going to talk about that with the Mad New Yorker, and a great comeback story. Not a lot of people's overlooking the fact of the comeback story of Rick Pitino and Kelvin Sampson. Nobody's really paying attention to the Houston coach, and I want to bring that up and discuss it with the Mad New Yorker. So let's take our first only break. We'll be back here momentarily. We'll hit the ground running. Of course, we'll give our Final Fours. We'll talk some brackets, of course, as well, and sleepers and dark horses or black horses, the way the Mad New Yorkers say. So stand by. We'll be back here shortly. We'll hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All righty, here. Without further ado, I'll bring in the Mad New Yorker. It's a good crowd there, buddy. Hey, if you check, you see my background now. Speaking of Mad New Yorker, it's a national show here. Want the Empire State to be behind me. Trying to upgrade everything a little bit. You know what I mean?
Hey, everybody's on that St. John's train. Woo, woo.
Yeah. I'm trying to do my Rick Pitino impersonation. Nice. I'm trying to get it back the way it was when we first met back in 2002, just to be obnoxious. Okay.
I live in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yeah, nah, man. Hey, You had to start doing the little hand gestures and everything, like a Bronx Tale, if you remember that classic there, 1992 by Chaz Palminteri. I told you so. I've got one more soundbite. Do you remember me telling you there, Carlos? What's going on, Chad? Chad Collins there. No relation to Phil Collins, not that I know of. Or
I'm gonna say, can you
I
hear
got
the
jokes today, brother. I'm sorry. But let's go back to March 6th. I told you I thought they would sign T. Higgins to extension. You said they think they would. Listen up. Here's a clip here from the program with me and you on March 6th. I think they'll sign him. And it's unfortunate, but they will. They're going to sign him.
No, I don't think it's
so. We'll see what happens. I'll clip it.
Yeah, and
we'll play who's right and who's wrong.
And I
think they'll sign him. That's why they're going to pay your boy big bucks one of these days.
Yeah,
that day's not today, but what you think, man? $28 million average extension from T. Higgins. What's your thought about that contract first?
It's okay. That's what the quarterback wants. That was part of our discussion. Y'all should go watch that and see that. Look, even if they do sign him, I'm not sure they can keep him, man.
Well, they signed him already, yeah.
Yeah, so
4-year extension or something like that.
Yeah, they could always trade him too. So I mean,
yes, that's true. Sign and trade.
I hope he stays with them, but the only problem is that you mentioned before, it's like 40+% of their payroll, and their problem has been defense and their offensive line. So we'll see what happens in Cincinnati. You're going to get a situation where you're like Kansas City or sometimes even the Bills. You'll score your 27, 30+ points, but then you're going to be struggling and you're going to lose even though you score those points because you can't hold the lead. So that's an important factor in trying to get into the playoffs and in the Super Bowl run. So I hope it works out for Cincinnati. I mean, they got 2 number 1 wide receivers, which is okay, but they need to protect their quarterback. He needs to be able to throw the ball to them. So I hope that they get those changes done on offense and defense.
Yeah, I've heard Mark Schlereth bring that up on his program about the drop back issue with him getting sacked and whatnot. They've got Orlando Brown on that offensive line. I haven't seen the kind of pressure. Personally, I haven't watched every single game, but I haven't seen the kind of pressure applied to him, talking about Joe Burrow, as I had in the past, like his second year, even the year they got to the Super Bowl. I think it's okay, the offensive line, from bad, because I'm a believer in Orlando Brown. I think that was necessary. But again, for those of you who hadn't been watching the show lately, the Bengals will be spending 44% of their cap on 3 offensive players on an average basis, $55 million a year for Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase, the highest paid non-quarterback at $40.25. That's $125 million on 3 players, 44.77%. And they're trying to get Trey Henderson, the edge rusher, done too. So, I mean, you do the math on that. That is 56% of the cap on the other 49 players. 52-man roster, right? I mean, you talk about top heavy, man. I thought CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott was bad.
Yeah, and like you see on those teams that you mentioned, like even on the Dallas Cowboys, or you talk about the New York Giants and the Jets, when these contracts are high and they're top heavy, you see that those contracts don't balance the teams well anyway. So you see these teams, they maybe make a playoff run, maybe get to a certain point, but the best teams that make it are not the teams that have that many talented folks that are signed for that much value anyway. So you got to find a way where everybody on the team feels like they're all getting like the same type of, they're all on the same page as far as, playing wise, defense and offense. And it's not about just, Joe, who got a bigger contract than Jeff or Tommy or whoever, so
yeah.
It's not these are all adult men too, and it's a business more than anything else, and it's tough on the coaching staff. and on ownership, because they got to put a product on the field and they want to win a Super Bowl. But what do you do when you're contract heavy and you can't make moves? What do you do?
Yeah, I think for one thing, I work with a lady. She's from Cincinnati. Her brother still lives in Cincinnati. He's got season tickets. Only thing you can hope for if you're a Bengals fan per se, and quite frankly, I'd like to be proven right that they win a Super Bowl at some point, but not at this type of expense. I would have moved off Higgins a year or two ago and probably extended. Adam Schefter mentioned this. They could have saved $5 million a year by extending Chase last year. Right. That's a lot of money, and I would have solidified that defense. But what you can hope for is they just knock it out of the park. Go the Rams model, go all defense in the draft, and you just hope and pray that all these players fit. Who is it? Al Golden, who's the new defensive coordinator. They fired Lou Anarumo, who I thought was a great coordinator.
Yeah,
but you can't get pressure up the middle. What can you do? I mean, you cannot get any pressure up the middle. That's not on the coordinator. That's on your personnel.
Yeah, and to be honest, if you look on the defensive end side of that, you on the NFL, you have a lot of good players on the defensive side, but you don't have a lot of great players on the defense side. You don't have that. You have maybe Micah Parsons, who's frowned upon because of how he acts, but he's been a Pro Bowler or
Dallas, yeah,
three seasons in a row. Then you got you got some guys like a few players in Los Angeles' defensive line, and you got a few players here and there. I mean, you don't have more than, I wouldn't say more than 30 guys that are all pro that play positions that you need to get to have a better balanced off defense. So, and it doesn't take away from these guys who are good players. You don't need greatness. You just need a balance, and you need to get that chemistry going. But it's tough, man, and you add business to this whole situation in contracts, and it gets even harder for some of these defensive coordinators, coaches, and GMs to try to put something together. And fans get, and even I, as a person working in the media, we get testy, man. Like, we paying for tickets to watch games, we paying for the NFL package, we're paying, we just keep paying, but there's going to be a point. All that's going to, so. You want to see these teams be competitive, man. And this all this means to me is Cincinnati's become a faster scoring team because they have, but I don't know if they're gonna. This doesn't guarantee them an easier way to get to a Super Bowl. I don't think, not yet. They got to make a few more moves. I think maybe they're like four to five players away of having that balance that they need. Because they still have a running back situation. I don't think they have a good backup. Or
you don't like the running back?
The running back's okay.
What's his name? Chase Brown.
Yeah, he's okay, but who's backing him up?
Some guy off the street probably.
What I'm getting at is what I usually spew. The madness that comes out of me is like you have to have depth. And right now they have all pros, and they have two number one receivers and a top rated quarterback, but and a few guys on their defense, but they need more balance and depth.
And I talked about this over the midst of the season when they started plummeting and losing a lot of close games, 34-28 type of games. I said, this guy loves to sell, Mike Brown, the owner. He loves to sell tickets. I went back and double-checked this. Houshmandzadeh, TJ Houshmandzadeh, and Chad Johnson both were extended back years ago with Carson Palmer. So the point to that was he gets a piece of that, those jersey sales from those wide receivers there. So it just goes to show you the guy's really just into making money and getting getting the
Who did-
dividends and keeping people
did
in
they
that
move on?
stadium.
Who did they move on from to get that?
I don't recall.
Remember Dylan,
That
the
far
running
back.
back?
Well, no, Dylan said, I'm not playing for these people no more.
Yeah,
Poor
no, but
Dylan just said, he said, I'm not playing for, and eventually we know what happened with Carson Palmer. And that's another reason. He's like, Joe Burrow's like, we need these players back. And Mike Brown's like, I don't want another Carson Palmer, Corey Dillon, air quote type of situation on hand, you know. But also, I think he also just wants that money from those jersey sales, because how many 8-year-olds you're going to see with Jamar Chase jerseys and I mean, you're going to see them all over the place, man. And they're going to be fun to watch. They're going to be great for Red Zone. You bet on them. You bet against them. You pick the over if they're healthy. They play a team like the Rams or somebody that can score a lot, or a banged up Lions team, or you know.
That's part of the business of it too, you know. So
I mean, like I said, I hope that hope I'm wrong. Hope they get lucky in the draft, hit on some players. What would really surprise me and surprise the world if they made a big trade and gave up their first round pick for a defensive tackle and tried to just go crazy and try to deviate this money, kind of do like I don't know if you can do it in the NFL, but do like the Dodgers are doing and just say, well, we'll pay you $18 million this year and we'll push it all back. We're going to be crappy in 2029, but the next 2 or 3 years will be money in the bank. Go after a guy like Jeffrey Simmons and just go all in and try to win a Super Bowl. The guy's 80-something years old, man.
You want to hear a funny contract story? Bringing in baseball.
Loans is quick. Go ahead, bud.
The biggest contract on the Cincinnati Reds, because this is in Cincinnati, so it kind of does tie in. For Major League Baseball players on the payroll is Ken Griffey Jr., and he hasn't played baseball in more than 9 years.
Oh, they put his contract back that far? Wow. When's the last time he played for them?
I think it was 9 or 10 years ago, something like that.
Maybe longer than that.
Maybe longer.
Wow. Kind of like Bobby Bonilla?
Yeah, something like that. He's like the highest paid player on the payroll, not on the actual roster in Cincinnati.
And they're still paying him?
They're still paying him.
Yeah, it's really going to get crazy for the Dodgers years from now, but they look really good. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of for them to do. I mean, it's good to watch all the points being scored, but it just doesn't mean nothing if you don't win a championship. It is what it is, brother. It is what it is. You want to move on to some college basketball. I wanted to ask you, how come it's really being overlooked, this, I'm trying to phrase this right, this comeback story of guys, not just Pitino. The St. John's is great, but you know, Kelvin Sampson got in trouble some years back with Houston when he was with Oklahoma, recruiting stuff, and it was even worse than what Bruce Pearl done, which was lied to the NCAA about a barbecue. He got a 3-year show clause, but Kelvin Sampson at Oklahoma, he got a 5-year show clause, if you don't recall. I want to say it was 2008 or something like that. Ironically, I want to say it was pretty close to that when Pearl got his issue. And I say all this because when guys get stuff like that, that's pretty heavy-handed, they usually don't bounce back. And going up to Pitino, not only did he have the recruiting issues in Louisville per se, but he also had the embarrassing sex scandal, if you recall, before that at Louisville.
Right.
You know, and then he had some on court stuff where he wasn't successful at the Celtics. But if you think about those the last recruiting scandal with the prostitutes and the strippers and everything under him, you would think that after the sex scandal, that, you know, the guy made a lot of money. He had won that second championship. He won one with Louisville. We know about his 96 championship with Kentucky. Wouldn't you think that he would just kind of 67 years old, retire, lay low, go down to South Florida. No, he gets back out there, and he goes to was it Ione or whatever.
Yeah,
Makes a name for himself there. Gets to the tournament, that team. And then he does this here at St. John's, and he's got this record for like the most teams in a tournament or something like that.
I believe it's 7 teams.
Yeah, 7 teams.
Boston College. He has
Kentucky,
Louisville, Iona, St. John's. I'm missing.
I think Providence is the other one.
Providence.
Yeah. So what kind of comeback? Let's start with Pitino. I mean, what kind of comeback story is that, man?
The thing that gets this whole buzz up about him is that he's from New York, man. He's a New Yorker. So everybody here in New York, they love. I mean, he was even the coach of the Knicks for like 5 minutes. Like, they all support him, man. Like, even when he went up north to Iona, like, there was so much support and love poured out to him because he came back. Like, and he's a hard worker. He starts from nothing and brings these programs up. And that's the thing, man. That's the, like the grittiness. Yeah, he had issues. We all have issues, but it's basketball. Yeah. And people in New York, they love basketball because there's always a winner and there's always a loser. And if you keep winning, people love you and they scream your name. But when you lose, you get thrown under the truck, man. And Rick Pitino, he ain't been under many tires, bro. And even if it wasn't even like he wasn't even flattened out. It was more like a muddy tire, and he just washed up, came back clean. I mean, and those kind of things, man, they resonate with people, especially those who support basketball and who love basketball in New York, man. He's old school. He don't take junk from people. Like,
are you surprised that he made this kind of comeback though? He's 70,
Yeah, I don't, because when he came out of Iona and he went to St. John's, everybody was like, he's gonna make a difference, but we don't know what kind, right? Yeah. It was either gonna be a really bad plane crash, or it was gonna be like, this guy did what he's supposed to do, and he always does what he's supposed to do. He gets in with the kids, he makes the kids believe, and I think that's the true testament of what a good coach is, because the kids that play for him, the young guys that play for him, the young men that play for him, they run through a wall for him, man, because he knows what he's talking about. And this team right now in St. John's, you can look up and down that roster and you'll be like, I don't know if these guys they'll start on almost all the teams in any top 5 conference, but these guys, they're doing what they're doing. They're playing together, and they're doing it here at St. John's, and that's the difference. They're doing it here in New York. Pitino's from New York. St. John's is an old historical basketball location that has been missing from the limelight for a lot of years, and they this is something that resonates with the people from the old hood, man, and that's where all this is coming from. Like, wait until New York Knicks get into a position where they're a championship caliber team. Right now, they're barely making the playoffs, and people are getting excited. But once they win a championship in New York, that's why they say things. That's why people hear things about when you win a championship in New York. It's not like winning a championship anywhere else, man. Everybody, you're talking about 5 boroughs, 12 million plus people, and the percentage of people that like or love the sport that you represented, man. It's incredible. That's why I'm excited. Like, I'm not even like, I didn't even go to St. John's. I just know it's down the street, and I'm like, but I know Pitino because I used to root for Kentucky when I was, on
mid-90s.
Yeah. So, and because Tennessee wasn't a good program, I rooted for Kentucky because they were very close.
Me too. Living here in Nashville.
Right. So, I mean, I'm excited. I even know his name. And that's another thing. He's a big name. It's not like he's not coming from zero, man. He's a big name. He's always been his name's always been up in the limelight. He's always done basketball the right way. His life ain't been all right, but he's always done basketball the right way. And
I just think that he has the ability to come back from scandal after scandal. And I forgive him. We all make mistakes. The reason why I brought it up, it's so inspiring, is the fact that, remember Mike Price, early 2000s, gets the Alabama job. This is a football coach.
Right.
Uses the company card for strippers and escorts. This guy was a hot coach coming in and never coached it down. That was so embarrassing for Alabama. And they wanted to upgrade their coaches. They fired this guy without him. And then he goes to like A&M or something like that. And you never hear from him again. And there's another guy from Iowa State that was up and coming. But there were pictures that came up on the internet about him. This guy named Larry Ecstasy Deshay. In 2003, the Iowa State men's basketball coach stepped down after photos and reports surfaced of him drinking and partying with students. And you just never hear anything about those two coaches again. It's really impressive, man. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff that they compiled, you had a few years before that, you had the sex scandal. It was really embarrassing for Pitino, where the woman was extorting him for money. I don't know if you remember that.
Right.
But it's pretty bad. And then the one a few years later, one of his assistants is paying these strippers and stuff. And then, of course, this is before NIL, per se.
Right, but he said he didn't know about it.
It's really hard to come back from that, man.
No, and that's another thing. It's like
it's really inspiring, if you ask me. I'm a forgiving person. I know we're all got flaws, you know.
But the thing is, again, you take it back to the court. The work on the court, his record's impeccable. Not just winning people, not just basketball, but with these young men and making a difference in their lives. There haven't been one person who hasn't played for Rick Pitino who doesn't thank them for the opportunity to get to be or have an opportunity to play in the NBA. There's not one. And how many guys has he had come back who are former players are starting to coach now? Even in Kentucky, Mike Pope, you got guys like that. Who? Yeah,
he played with Pitino. Now, what do you think about Kelvin Sampson?
Wait,
5-year show clause. That's wild, dude.
Yeah, one more thing, and then now his son is doing it in New Mexico, and his son is becoming a successful coach.
Are they in the tournament?
They're both in the tournament. This is the first time I found this are in a tournament, like coaching teams. Yeah, so that's another thing. So it's like, look, when you got people like that where they do their job and they do it to the best of their ability, a lot of times those kind of things oversee the negativity of what happens in their own personal life. Because as much as they have their life in the light, people do and recognize that the people who, the stars, the people that are coaching, that they have a personal life at the end of the day, and I think that's one thing that, as long as he didn't cross that line where he affected somebody's life as a player, right, and he's even said things like, I wish with some players I would have done more, knowing that they had substance abuse issues, that they had grade problems, he knows that, and he's acknowledged that, and he says it like, you can't, as much as you try to be in people's lives, you can't live their life. And those are the things that he says to just kind of make you understand that he is a coach and he's trying to be a mentor and he's trying to do the best he can for these students to win the championship and then also help them out and get them to the next level. Because that's the point for most of the situations that he was been. But now with NIL, it's different. Now these kids are demanding money. Now these kids have brands. Now these kids school, it's not about getting a scholarship no more. Yeah. It's
and he's an older coach,
Right.
People are learning to delegate better and going to Sampson. Now, Kelvin Sampson, this is 2008. Impermissible phone calls and providing false information, NCAA violations, and the Oklahoma program, which they were playing pretty well. They're getting in the tournament.
Yeah.
But getting a 5-year show, I mean, you're a pariah. We saw Bruce Pearl. I'm pretty impressed with Pearl bouncing back, even though that was just one really bad violation where lying about a barbecue. Kelvin Sampson, who's coach at Houston, man. Kelvin Sampson is my parents' age. I think he's a year older than my parents. And he's another guy that could have just, you know what? I'm done with it. I'll go be assistant at NBA and then I'll retire. But, Houston's a real threat here to get to the Final Four and win the championship as well. Just to kind of be because you're put off on the side for like 5 years. You
Yeah,
know,
and-
it's hard to get back up. You know,
He got Houston. He changed the culture at Houston to make them a
Right.
viable, competitive team. This isn't his first go round. He's been
Right.
he's been in the dance or close to being in the Sweet 16 for the last 3 years.
Yes.
Between being in making a run to the dance and being in the Sweet 16. So again, another guy who leaves his work on the court, man, and a lot of guys sing his praise. He's changed a lot of guys' lives. He's given the opportunity to a smaller university to be in the limelight, man. You can't ask for anything better.
That's really good. It's impressive.
And the fact that he's a African American coach in a university like University of Houston in Texas says a lot to how much they respect him for what he has done, what he can do, and what he is doing in the game of basketball at that university. And you have to give the alumni at the university a lot of respect and a lot of thanks that they give him that opportunity, because even though he's showing it and that he knows how to coach and that he's a mentor and he's helping these young men, they definitely could have gone and would have definitely did other things had they only given him a smaller chance or opportunity. So
Yeah. And he basically got in trouble for just pushing the envelope with the phone calls and the
right.
I mean, a lot of it was just, with his thing, he was just trying to be competitive and he tried to get an edge. It wasn't an issue like Pitino's was, where he had both issues.
And Houston didn't treat him like a bridge coach. They didn't treat. They gave him a decent contract to begin with. They allowed him to give opportunity and time to see what could happen and what he can develop. And if he doesn't coach there, I'm not sure how much time or how much what it would have taken to get the University of Houston in the limelight, in the spotlight, being ultra competitive and being at the dance. Because this has been 3 years, people, and every 3 years I'm like, oh man, this team looks. Aside from the injuries, the first time
they keep getting a little bit closer every year, and they got 4 starters back too, by the way.
Yeah,
from last year.
And I say that I watch a lot of basketball. I sometimes praise Sampson for the teams that he has in Houston. They coach well. They play defense. This team's a little bit different. They're fast. They shoot a lot, but it's what it is. Basketball's been changing. But these two coaches, the most important thing that they have, adaptability, and they're flexible. They don't.
Yeah, they change with the times.
Yes, they don't put their players.
And he's lost some weight too, man. That guy's thin down.
Yeah, I think he's got maybe some ailments that
Oh, really?
I think he's getting older though. But look, nothing to take away from who he is and what he's done as a coach.
I think he's at the top of his game, coaching wise.
Look, I hope he can stay another 4 years, but that's me hoping. But I enjoy.
Well, he's 4 years younger than Pitino, so he'd be all right.
I enjoy the quality and the kind of basketball that's coming out of Houston, and it's good for that. It's good for the conference. It's good for Texas, because Texas, they try. So it's tough, man. Those schools they try but it's good to see them there. So
a lot of people are high on the Texas team. One guy's, I think of Jason McIntyre, he's high on Texas Tech to go far. So let's transition into talking about the brackets. But let me give a little intro music. I'm pretty hyped there, Chief. So what do you I don't even know where to start at, brother. How far do you think Houston will go? Since we're talking about Houston, where do you have them at on your bracket per se? I'm trying to get mine up here now. I've had problems with brackets all day. Everything's got to be on the app, man. Yeah. Why does everything have to be on the app?
Yeah, is that what it is, man?
It's killing me.
We used to just message people and call people on our phones, but now we can just create everything.
Print it out like old times, That's what I should have did. I'm so
should have posted it behind you.
You
should have posted it behind you.
Yeah, Oh yeah. I probably should have just put it like whatchamacallit. Just put it all on the wall. I saw some people do that on TikTok earlier. It's pretty cool here. But Houston, they're in the Midwest Conference here. But here's the thing, though. I mean, I really like. Well, now he's went off. There you are. Okay. Gonzaga.
Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. I have somebody trying to send me some. Give me 1 second. So I don't want no streaming issues anymore.
Okay. I've been having some problems here with a lot of streaming stuff here lately. The Roku channel's not streaming right, so I don't know what's going on out there. You ready?
All right, let's see. Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's hit it.
So, I was talking about Houston. They're a 1 seed, man. I mean, just really impressed with what they're doing here. You start looking at teams that shoot really good free throws, rebounding, team assist. And, I know a lot of people was not really talking about Gonzaga this year, but actually, man, I actually got them putting out Houston in the second round in a big upset per se. Even though, I mean, I like the story there of now this is just one bracket, obviously. I love Houston's story, and Houston could go all the way. But, man, I really like this Gonzaga team in the 8 here. What's your thoughts about that particular potential matchup between them two in the second round, man? I think that's one that a lot of people's not talking about.
Yeah, I think people are like kind of glazing over that because of the fact that they're seated so high. So they're in Gonzaga as much as like they've been on the up and down in the last 2 seasons. That's going to be a good game, but I still have Houston winning that game.
Okay.
Because they're fast and I like that they rebound and play a little bit of defense. Where Gonzaga they're a little bit more slower and they have to set up for that shot. So because they have more shooters. So, but man, that's gonna be a game. I think that upset you have that's possible depending on like the stamina of the team. That's one thing. I know those guys are a little bit older and they've been playing a lot.
2 great coaches, Mark Few there with Gonzaga, and of course I just talked up Kelvin Sampson. It's a great story, man. Do you have a particular in your phraseology black horse? Do you have a black horse team in mind? I got Gonzaga, but they're I know a name brand, but they're like an 8 seed. That would be a dark horse, man.
Yeah, and I mentioned to you, like, I just want to see St. John's play Tennessee, and that's my. I want to see that.
St. John's is a 2 seed, man.
I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does happen, it'd be in the Final Four or the championship. But I like those are those 2 teams I want to see play each other. Do I have them going to win the championship? I do not. I'm sad to say I stayed in the SEC, but I have Auburn as my championship team, man. So
okay,
yeah,
we'll get to the Final Four per se. Yeah. Here in just a little bit, just talking about this Western side of the bracket. UConn's won a national championship twice. Florida's in that bracket. I think UConn will get past that first round. I want to say they play Louisville in the first round tomorrow or Friday per se, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I see UConn being up on that one. So,
do you see a chance of them beating Florida? I mean, I met a guy. It's a pretty smart guy. By the way, I'm trying to get him on. I'm trying to get this guy on the program, guys. I met him in Uber the other day. I picked him up in Uber. Just a little FYI for everybody. I sent me an email the other day. His name is Sean, and Sean is from St. Louis, and he's worked with bringing in some Missouri football players to the University of Missouri, like Darrell Green Beckham. Remember him?
Yeah.
And Sheldon Richardson. I think he went to the Jets for a little while, didn't he?
Yeah, he was here for a little bit. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, but he still thinks Connecticut can do something this year. And I said, I don't know, man. This is not the same team.
No,
do you see a chance of Florida beating them in the second round? They would be technically meeting in the second round if both win the first, which I think a lot of us think they will, especially Florida. I mean, they're the 1 seed, or A1 seed.
Yeah,
UConn plays Oklahoma. Excuse me, I'm sorry, and I think a lot of people is going to pick UConn to beat Oklahoma in round 1. Do you have Oklahoma in that game?
I have UConn beating Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't see any chance of Florida beating or them beating Florida, do you?
I think that's one of those matches that's going to be great, depending on how the two teams finish the night before or the game before that, and the stamina thing. Because the thing is that Florida's coming in hot, but they don't have – I don't see them having depth. They have speed, but I don't see them having depth, and then also that history, right? Like a coach, UConn has a coach that has history with them. He knows he's been to the dance a few times, and he's come from a basketball family. So all those kind of things affect these young men, and he can coach them and guide them while they're doing this run. So this is not one of those top heavy star-studded UConn teams, but they are fighters, man. They very what's that word? They're very like you don't want to face them right now because they're gonna put up a fight. So and then I have that from this one. I have Maryland actually coming out of this.
Okay.
Out of the West, I have them. I have Florida and Maryland.
No, why are you so high on Maryland? Somebody else mentioned Maryland.
That's another. That's
Fox guy. What's the hype on Maryland?
Man, they're just one of those teams, bro, that have speed. They have a good, good deep transitional defense, but they pick up a lot of rebounds. They don't stop playing, and they just that's one of the teams in the last few weeks I've been watching. I'm like, man, this team has a lot. They have a lot of depth too. They're about 7 deep, and probably more, but at least 7 deep, and they are putting out on the basketball court whenever they're playing together. Even if the top guys are on the bench, they still have a few guys there that can pick up the pace and stay with them. And that's like, how I say, you got to have nine deep, and they're close. They're very close. I don't have Maryland winning the championship, but I got them coming out, beating Florida. And again,
wow.
And I say that, and I say that because I don't know the effects of if Florida beats Connecticut, how much did they beat up on how much has Connecticut?
So you're looking at the fatigue factor.
Yeah, totally. Stamina fatigue. I'm all about that for the dance. And you know me, like I said, I'd like to see that bench be a little bit longer, not longer in the tooth, So if these kids have injuries or something happens, and Florida has one injury, that's it, But if Maryland has one injury, they're still going to be fighting.
I'm high like a mother bleeper on Florida. Okay, so who's your Final Four? And I'm going to clip it, and then I'll clip my Final Four. We'll discuss that. Who you got there, brother?
Let's see. I had the Final Four. 1 second. I like 4 brackets going at the.
Who's your like Mike Golick used to say? What's your sheet of integrity? What's your lineup and their digital screen of integrity?
I got Auburn. Final Four. I have Auburn. I have Tennessee.
Okay.
Duke.
Okay.
Another team. 1 second. And I sent it. Did you get it by the chance?
No.
All right. 1 second.
Did you have Maryland in the Final Four?
No, I did not. I had them in the 16. Let me look on the other side. Hold on.
It would be in that bracket. That Florida bracket, which is.
I might have had Maryland beating Florida out of that bracket. So yeah, I might have had Maryland. Yeah, that's probably it. 1 second.
Well, I mean, which one is it, Chief? Do you need to check it real quick?
Yeah, I need to check.
I'll give you mine real quick, and then you can check.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've got Auburn here. Let me see. What did I put here? Hold on.
I'm like you. I didn't print it out.
I know you have to really with these stupid apps, man. Now, so anyways, okay. So Duke, why did I take Duke? I was impressed the fact that when Flag went out, they still won their ACC championship. I actually think North Carolina's ticked off about this issue with getting criticized for being the last one put in for political purposes, and then the governor of West Virginia is wanting to file a lawsuit. That's the weakest thing I've ever heard, by the way. It's 68 teams. If you can't get in on your own, you don't deserve to get in. This thing is watered down anyways to a certain extent. So bleep you, West Virginia. Okay, so all that being said, my Final Four is Duke, Tennessee. Tennessee has a lot of criteria. Love the guard play in Tennessee, man. Guard play, defense. Wish they had a better front court, but I do like their bracket. I like Tennessee's path. Duke, again, Cooper Flag, he 18, 19 years old, ankle injury, supposed to be back. I think he'll get fully healed as the tournament goes on, and I think that Duke's going to be fine. Like Howard mentioned the other day, they've got 3 pros on that team that could hurt them, but they have 4 starters coming back from last year also, like a Houston. So I've got Duke, Tennessee, Auburn, Florida, 3 SEC teams, and I've got Duke over Florida to win the national championship, 72-66. I'll probably regret that. Florida will probably end up winning it, but I'll take Duke over them. What do you think? I wanted to put Houston in, but I didn't like it. Their bracket. I wanted to put St. John's in, but I didn't like their path either. What do you think about that?
Right. Yeah, they have a tough path, man. St. John's does, which is why I'm like, I don't know if I could put them in. But I had Duke, Alabama, Tennessee, and Auburn.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now who's in the championship game?
On the championship, I have Auburn versus Duke. I have Auburn winning 89-81.
Woo! So you like Bruce Pearl. That would be a comeback story. The 3-year show clause goes to a team like Auburn, who's been in the dumps for years, and then he gets them to I think they didn't get to a Final Four a few years ago, or get close. Or is that South Carolina's guy? That might have been South Carolina. Either way, that would be a great story. Colin Coward has Auburn winning it as well. I'm just really high on Florida. I was really impressed with them down the stretch, and of course, especially Auburn, or not Auburn, Florida in the tournament per se that was played here in Nashville. So so I've got Duke over Florida, and you have Auburn over Duke, right?
Yeah.
To win the whole thing.
I think those two programs have gotten a lot of NIL money together. They gotten a lot of players that they need. They're at least 8+ 8 deep. Both of those teams, depending on their stamina and the fatigueness and they're gonna have to play. But Duke just has. It feels like their avenue is a little bit cleaner, man. They got a little cleaner street to try to get to the championship run, man. And as a basketball person, as much as I want to say that I want to see St. John's and Tennessee play, I don't know if it's going to be possible, right? So I just want to be real with the situation. What I want to see and what I think is going to happen are 2 different things, man. So
yeah, and here's FanDuel's got Duke as the favorite to win it. Florida second, Auburn's third. Houston is 4th ahead of Alabama, Tennessee, Texas Tech, Michigan State. By the way, what do you think about Seth Davis here from CBS Sports? I watched all that and recorded it. He's got Michigan State in the Final Four. Is that more of name recognition of their head coach there? Because it seems like Michigan State has not had the players here lately.
It's
of
not
Izzo.
really name recognition. They have a good squad. I just don't think they're deep enough. But and they did well in their conference, and they did well during the season, and they played well. But it's not a name recognition thing. It's just like it's hard to get that conference to get a lot of teams that are going to be like ultra competitive, and they're the most competitive, the team with the most depth and seniority on the team, right? So they'll be a team to compete that will compete, but I'm not sure. I don't feel in my opinion that they're going to be going far in that bracket, right? So if I pick these other teams, they're not going to far. They're not getting that far in that bracket. So
Izzo has beat me more than he's helped me in the past. He's good at like a 5 seed, but when you put him as you recall one time that they had the 2 seed in Middle Tennessee State beat them in the first round, a 15. Yeah. And it totally run my bracket that year. I started never to play again. By the way, let me ask you a serious question, and I want to bring this up to the audience. Chad, if you're still listening, when's the last time you've honestly had a Final Four bracket that was like your first bracket that was clean? I can't remember one where I've got all 4 Final Four right in a while.
I'll probably say 5 seasons ago. The last 3 seasons, I had 2 of the teams, and the last 3 seasons, I had the 3 teams I had the last 3 seasons in the Final Four. That they were pretty close. I had and then I was off in points 2 seasons ago, and last year I had one team, but then the other 4 teams in my Final Four, I didn't have any other 4 teams, so I just had that one team. And
yeah, so this seems very hard for me. I can't remember the last time I had all 4 of them, Dan. I mean, honestly, I studied this stuff like crazy, and I still can't.
No, the trick is not to be a fanboy, not to be like not to depend on just the coach.
I was really reluctant to pick Tennessee, but they are playing well. I mean, they were in the Elite 8 last year. Clark Kellogg with CBS. He's got Michigan State also, but he's also got Clemson in here. Do you think Clemson can make a run at the Final Four?
Yeah, I mean the possibilities are. This is the dance. So
they did beat Duke, I want to say, didn't they?
The thing is that these teams are competitive, but in my research and after watching so much college basketball this year, it's the team that has the better players on the bench that can get it started anywhere else in their conference or in their Power 5. If those guys on the bench could have been starting somewhere else, so if they're like, that junior that takes that year off on a red shirt and ends up on the team, those are those kind of guys.
I like those guys that are 22, 23.
Yeah. So that's what you kind of look at, right? Or you have a team like that are like freshman, sophomore, and they're all trying to get into NBA status like after this dance. Those are the 2 types of things that I look for, because those are the guys that are self-motivated.
Yeah.
To do big things when they're on the court. Now the coaches, they got to make the right plays. They got to make the right calls. They got to make the right adjustments. They got to be flexible. They do make a huge part of the game as well to allow these guys to be motivated. But we can't, we come from an era where it was about the coaches and what he did with the players. Right? Yeah,
and I love that era.
Yeah, now it's all about what are the players going to do with the time that they have, and what is are they trying to make an experience, or are they trying to use their experience to better the team, right? So,
right. I got a funny clip I want to play for you. We talked about this a few years ago. With who was that guy? Brian Gumbel, one of his final years doing the CBS. This is Charles Barkley talking about taking a shower with his uniform on, and Kenny from Kenny Smith saying, "There's no era where we ever did that." Man, I want to play this for you. I've played this before, but I've actually got the clip. This is about 55 seconds. I should have got a longer clip of it, but this is pretty fun. I want to get your comment on this, and I want to see what you think about it. or everybody else as well.
Yeah, I'm so old. We used to take a shower in our uniforms because, because we flew commercial my first few
Wait,
years.
time out. There's no era where you did.
Yes, it is.
Stop, you're making this up.
No, I'm not.
There's no way that you were supposed to wash your uniform with it on.
When I first,
You're making this up.
I'm not making this up. When I first got to the NBA, we flew commercial.
Yes,
I'm not
that's
disagreeing with
So,
that.
so when
That's
you
not what I'm
played the
disagreeing.
night before and flew the next morning, when was you exactly going to get your uniform clean? You had to wash your uniform yourself. So after the game, when you got to your room, you took a shower in your uniform and dried it and dropped on the commercial airline the next day.
Who are you with Jed Clampett?
No,
That's why you had to let him finish.
Come on. Yeah, have you ever heard of this in your life, Clark?
Well, how are y'all cleaning y'all uniform? Y'all playing in funky uniforms?
But he's going to say we took them to the laundromat. What do you think we cleaned the uniforms? Do you believe that story?
Yeah, I believe it. And I went to county school, and there was guys who in football they used to do that.
I remember you said that then a few years ago.
Yeah, like they would do that. They would do that because it was mostly with the practice uniforms. It wasn't with the game uniforms, because the practice uniforms you gotta use the next day anyways.
Yeah.
So to have that clean and have your pads clean, they would shower with those pads on. And I wasn't on the football team, so I didn't care, but I just thought it was weird that they did that. But because they
always had that funky smell, didn't it?
Yeah. Like, when you're in high school and you play in a county school like that, like they would wash your game uniforms, and you had like 40, 50 people on the team. So that would take a week anyways, because you had high school little volunteers for that, or guys that were on that would watch that for you. But it's a lot, man. You got to cut money up.
So you think Barkley made that up? Or
No,
you
I don't.
think he actually did that.
I'm sure they had 2 or 3 pair of uniforms, but he probably washed his uniform, and I'm sure he did it just because he probably would rather wear a uniform than wear a different, like, I'm not sure what the uniform back in the day, man. It was different, man. Like nowadays.
How come Kenny Smith disagreed? He's like, there was no era.
Well, you have to see what teams he played for, though. Like,
well, he did. Yeah, Kenny played for a championship Rockets team, and when Barkley first came in the league, he played for a crappy 76ers team. Or maybe Barkley's just too lazy to go down the laundromat and wash it differently. Let me just I couldn't imagine taking a shower in some crappy uniform jersey that I've been wearing and sweating in for 3 hours. That just makes my skin crawl.
And Shaq makes, I like when he does things, he says things to Barkley, but they go at it. But that was one of the funny. You just see Brian Gumbel's face, like, what is this guy talking about?
Hey, Jed Clampett.
Well, I mean,
Billy's.
Yeah, but there's just so many things that players have done and that I've seen in different sports, just because of luck, of luck, or just their own mannerisms, like.
Are you meaning like superstition?
Yeah, superstition, and then
the baseball players are big into that.
Yeah, and then also, some people just are accustomed to doing things that we can find that are weird. When he said that, it didn't sound weird to me, but it might, trigger somebody.
It sound unsanitary.
I mean, what are you gonna that he did that in the past? So, and look, I was a manager for the women's team at Austin Peay. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
and
I remember telling me about it.
Yeah, and I had to, we had to wash. They had to wash their clothes. They had to have their clothes washed and everything. So, no. I don't think no woman ever kept her uniform. Even if they were superstitious, the coach was like, if you have a superstition, you got to keep it to like a hairband or like something that you can take with you, but we're not washing it, or we're not touching your grimy stuff, or you can.
Right. We had staff problems.
Yeah.
That was a quarter for Austin Peay. So that. It's real sanitary. Anything you want to add about the tournament before we end the program tonight, Chief?
There's a few games going on right now. Tomorrow's the bigger games.
The
actual tournaments gets hot and going, and don't get upset if your tournament gets busted. Like,
Because odds are it's going to.
Yeah,
nobody's never had a perfect bracket in the history of this thing.
Yeah, and it's a fun time for the young men playing this game as well. So an opportunity for them to be in a championship run position and a chance to showcase their skills to get to the next level, depending on where they want to go. Or this might be the last opportunity for some of these young men to be in a championship situation if they choose to not go into professional sports and basketball in the future. So, it's everybody's, we are fans and we all have emotions, but let's keep it real. These are young men, and they're going to be affected a lot more than your bracket being busted. And just, show support, go out for your teams. And I'm kind of down that Austin Peay wasn't, part of this dance. And, both you and I attended Austin Peay, and we you didn't get a chance to go to Alabama when they played Louisville.
No.
I
remember when they played Louisville, and I thought this is going to be a beat down, but at least we're here,
Yeah, I saw Rick Pitino put the smack down on Austin Peay.
Speaking of him, yeah,
in Alabama, and one of the things though, I remember that Austin Peay kept it close for a little bit, but then the team of Louisville Cardinals, they went out and they just started balling, and that was crazy.
Double-digit win, yeah.
Yeah, and Austin Peay lost, but you always want a team to root for. And this year, I sound like a bandwagoner, but St. John's and I did attend the University of Tennessee. I just want to see those two teams play, man, and everybody enjoy it. Yeah. Have fun. If you drink, get a ride home or stay home. If you drink, don't.
If you get an Uber and the Uber guy offered you, and he's a good tour guide and gives you mints and stuff, and you're drinking and stuff.
Nice.
Don't forget to tip your Uber driver. I don't understand why people don't tip. I mean, today I had two great riders on the way home from work or my day job, going to the airport. They tipped. Thank you very much. Great. One lady flying to DC and another gentleman flying to San Diego to see his girlfriend. But you out of towners here, listen, folks, if I'm giving you a tour of the city while I'm giving you an Uber ride and offering you cell phone chargers that you can use, because I got outlets in my back of my car. I got mints. I think, and I get you there in one piece. Don't forget to tip your. You know how Bob Barker used to say, help control the pet population, have your pet spayed or neutered? Folks, don't forget to tip your Uber driver. I was talking to this guy and his family from Iowa for 15 minutes and giving them all this information. I'm like, okay, you're going to tip me, right? Don't forget the tip. I mean, what's wrong with you people in Iowa, man? Are y'all poor or something up there? It's a second group of half a mile. Nothing against everybody in Iowa, but come on, man.
Yeah, and also if you go out to eat with your group of friends, or
order an Uber, but tip the guy.
Don't be obnoxious and enjoy the game, but let other people enjoy the game and their team.
Yeah. Yes, that is a good tip, actually. Yes, don't be that one fan.
Yeah, and tip tip the waitress. It's a busy
course.
time. Don't think that if you're gonna go to a place like a B-Dubs or a huge bar or pub, you're gonna be the only one there. Understand that this is an all-day thing. They say that 40% of the working population during this time will call out for the next day. So
they're not paying attention to work. They're looking at
Yeah. So be mindful.
I was one of them people.
Yeah,
now I drive for my job. I can listen to what I'm doing.
Yeah, be mindful and just you can find your own enjoyment, but respect others and try to and hopefully they can enjoy their supporting their teams and watching their games, because that's why and that's probably one of those big things that some of these restaurants now are closing. But I used to dislike. I could watch 4 games at the time, and then hearing people and just it's like, oh man, just enjoy the game.
Fun. I just like watching at home though.
Yeah, I just started watching at home after a while. When you get older, you're like, forget it.
Well, we got our PSAs out of the way there, Carlos. Hopefully, I'll see you next Thursday, man. We come on at normal time. Just wanted to get it in because that first Thursday, people love to watch the game, and I'll just replay the program. And good luck with your bracket, brother, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, let's go Rocky Top. Let's go Storm. Let's do this.
Yeah. Mad New Yorker, everybody. Got to get a standing. Well, they like you tonight, man. Appreciate you. Great show, buddy. Thanks, man. All right, everybody. I'll see you next week, hopefully next Wednesday. I'm working on a special guest. We'll see how it works out. Have a good week, everybody. Thanks for watching The Real Sports.